the morning show with Eric Von Hessler. That's me. I'm Eric Von Hessler, but I'm joined by my friends, the regular crew. Oh, I shouldn't say regular.
Close one.
The daily crew, I should say. Autumn Fisher
Hello.
is right there. She's part of the daily crew. Once again, our good friend Michael Albanese is not with us here in this room, but he's in Greg's little cubbyhole apartment in New York City. Michael, good morning.
Hey, how you doing over here?
New York is rubbing off on him. And while he's at Greg's place, Greg's here in our place. There's Greg Russ over there. Say hello, Greg.
Hello.
Don't act like you weren't just laughing it up. We were just having a great time. I don't know what happens. We're having a great time. We're
I
laughing.
start out the show stoic, and then we'll build into that.
Oh, this is your thing. This is what you do.
It is what I do.
It's your act, is what you're saying.
Would you have preferred me to start out the show with the joke? Say hello, Greg. Hello, Greg. That really got us up on the right foot.
All right, hold on. I got to pull myself together here, Eric. Focus. You got to do a show.
I think we should have stopped. There was a great minute 23 show.
Make sure you end the show with it. I'll say goodbye, Greg.
Okay.
And you'll say that. What will you say?
Don't give it away.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
You're
Come
right.
on.
You're right.
You know the punchline already going in. It's not
no
gonna be
fun.
funny.
Comedy's not fun if you know where you're
That's
going.
right.
That's the whole idea. I don't
Unless
know where
it's
I'm going.
Dumb and Dumber. You can watch that movie a million times and laugh and laugh and laugh.
Because it's just so damn funny. I'm that way about The Cable Guy, but a lot of people don't like that one as much.
I love that movie.
That movie is brilliant.
It is brilliant.
When that movie came out, it
Love
was
it.
panned like you wouldn't believe.
People
I saw
still
it
hate
the
it.
first weekend, and I thought it was panned because it was the first time that Jim Carrey got paid $20 million, and it may have been the first time anybody got paid $20 million for a movie, so there was a different standard on it. No doubt about the fact that the last 10 minutes are stupid. It has has a crap ending that's like, okay, let's just close this out. No doubt about that. But Jim Carrey in that movie, when he shows up to lay the cable the first day, that's some of the funniest shit that's ever been in a movie, as far as I'm concerned. And that movie just got panned.
It was marketed incorrectly. People, well, Jim Carrey, he's funny.
Well, I guess because he was sinister,
Yeah.
people didn't like that. But I don't like that when people do that in any way to
Like, I wonder what the trailer was for that. It probably didn't present the movie in the right light.
Maybe
so it's
not.
another Jim Carrey movie. I'm going to go laugh.
He's going to be wacky. But I mean,
He was kind of wacky.
funny. I mean, it was deeply funny. I mean, the scene where Matthew Broderick is trying to tell him they're not going to be friends anymore in the rain. Just you look at Jim Carrey's face while he's telling him that, and it all leads up to Jim Carrey saying, he says something like, "So there's still a chance." Then, or something. You're saying there's still a chance.
No, that's Dumb and Dumber.
I think.
No,
That's
no,
Dumb and
So you're
Dumber.
saying there's a chance.
No,
That's
no,
Dumb
no,
and Dumber.
No, I'm talking about the scene in Cable Guy.
Yes.
I only saw Dumb and Dumber once with Greg. That's the only time I've ever seen it. So I know the Cable Guy a lot better. And I may be getting the line wrong, but the scene is it's raining. They're outside. Matthew Broderick's just laying it down. He's just saying, "Look, man, we're not going to be friends anymore." I don't know what the dialogue is, but he's basically just being as blunt and honest about it as he can be. And the whole time, Jim Carrey's looking at him with the funniest look on his face as he's taking this in. And he ends it with, maybe he doesn't say that line because that's a Dumb and Dumber line, but the idea is, so we could still be friends, right? Something like that. But anyway, I thought that it had grown on people over time. I thought people liked it more now. Maybe they do now a little more.
It's got its cult status.
It got
I love it.
shit on when it came out. Also, another one like that is The Big Lebowski. Did not do well when it first came.
heard that
People
too.
did not like it. I went to see it. Me and my buddy went and saw it the opening weekend. We loved it, and it's one of those weird things where I really love that movie. And you tend to seek out reviews when you liked something. Like you want to, I don't know.
Like-minded people.
Like-minded people.
Yeah.
Wow, one is a great movie. I want to hear what other people are writing
Sure.
about it. And most of the reviews for Big Lebowski were not good in the beginning.
And now people love it. There's a store actually a block over from the apartment in New York, the Little Lebowski. Only the Big Lebowski theme. I don't know how they stay open. I assume that the owner just owns the space.
Tourism also. Maybe it's the only time you have a place like that, so you have to go there to get it. But on the internet, you can get all the shirts you want. Now the Big Lebowski is now turned into something that's, even though it's a great movie, it can't help but be overrated because people are basing their lives around it. I mean, and become, I think, getting too invested in it. But it's a damn good movie that didn't do well with critics when it first came out. But the point that I was going on there to begin with was Greg is so stoic in the beginning, but we were just laughing our heads off in here.
Yeah.
Because Greg was doing impressions of his least favorite male orgasm noises in pornography. And I would like you to run through some of those. Take us up from, like, say, your third least favorite to your first least favorite.
Well, the third, this is the third worst. Just the guy who announces is going to come over and over. I'm going to come. 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 Once is fine if you want to announce it. So that's
Maybe she's
third worst.
deaf or hard of hearing.
Second is the deep throat. And then number one. This is the one
Going too fast. We're not able to take these in.
Well, number one, after much deliberation in the car ride, I went to North Carolina, 5-hour car ride. This is when I come up with the worst one. And it goes on way longer than the orgasm actually lasts because what are they going on 5 seconds?
Right.
Right.
And there's a whole wind down period like
And that's only drowned out by the tears coming from her.
Oh yeah, there's like a little residual.
Yeah.
Oh.
Goes back up.
Can you, out of all of them, let's say, not the one that you like, but what's the least, like, if you're gonna have the male orgasm noise that you would prefer for every movie, what would that be?
That's a
Just
good question.
Just straight up, just like and done.
I'm trying to think, what noise do I make? I don't even know. I think I'm relatively
I'm
quiet.
not loud. I'm pretty quiet. I'm not like
You just like.
Like a mouse.
I think I just breathe deeper. I don't make noises like audible, like ah. I'm just not like that. I mean, you either are like that or you're not, right? I'm out of shape, so I'm probably just breathing harder. I think that's me. Something like that. It's just
Ew.
about breath. Ew, me? You'd rather hear somebody on ah. That freaks me
No,
out.
I think any male orgasm noise is probably pretty weird.
I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come.
He's
I'm gonna come.
warning
I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come.
Look
Shut up. Get it. Get on your knees. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come. That's always the worst. Get on your knees. Fuck you, dude.
well,
Forcing her to get down there.
Well, he probably owns.
What is it with that?
He probably owns the equipment. He
But
can
what
tell her
is it
to
on the
do.
face? If I'm gonna watch a guy jizz
face paint
on a woman, I'd prefer it to be a part of her body that's sexual. The face is
The face is
just
sexual. You're saying the face isn't sexual?
okay. It
The
is
face
sexual, but what I'm talking about in that
No
in
one's
that
looking at a face and saying, "I'm
jerking off to a
that
face.
girl."
What?
They're looking at their body or something.
Look at your body, but I mean, your face. The prettier that you are, the more
That's
interesting
true.
you
It's
look.
true,
that is
but it's
erotic.
So you're just looking at women on the internet, just their faces, and
That's what I'm
jerking
saying.
off to it.
Yeah.
No.
So there you
So
go.
within that realm,
Have you ever seen? There was God. It was like well, you saying that reminds me of something that I remember bringing up on the computer at 96 Rock or something, where I don't know if it's still going on, but they had these websites where people would like print out a picture of like
Oh, yeah.
Laverne from Laverne and Shirley or something, and they decorate that picture, and then they take a picture
Right.
or they take a video of them. I don't even want to say
Why
that, even
can't
though
you
we're on the
say
internet,
it?
you know, sort of spooging on
Spooge.
Laverne and or Shirley,
Spooge.
and then they take pictures of that, and then they put that up on the internet.
Yeah, who was that? It was from Perfect. No. What was the sitcom with, oh my God, the two girls and come on knock on a door.
That would be Three's Company.
Three's
Yes,
Company.
it was her. Joyce
It was
DeWitt.
her, Joyce DeWitt.
Joyce DeWitt.
Yes.
There was at one time, yes,
Thank you.
an entire website dedicated to people printing out pictures of Joyce DeWitt, doing their business on her face on the picture, and then they would post pictures of that.
Right.
Does it still exist? You got to look for it for me, somebody, please.
you want me to look it up?
I'm
I want
looking
to
at
see
it.
if it's still.
Autumn.
I want to know if somebody has been curating this website for a decade now.
So it's photos, or is it?
It's photos.
did it
I don't think
turn
they,
into
I don't-
videos of
I don't
them.
think there was pictures of them doing it. It was they would do it and then they would take a photo of the pic.
The throaty one.
Gross.
Fucking just become animals, like a fucking lion on the open Serengeti mounting a lioness. And, come on, we're above that, right?
I would think so. Like I say, I don't do that. I'm a discreet person. I just don't. I don't want my neighbors to hear me having fun. You must have it weird. Autumn. You got a young couple. They're going at it.
That's what
constantly.
you sound like?
Oh,
Like, you got a young couple in that building, and you know the building that Autumn lives in. Those walls are paper thin.
Well, we don't.
They got to know when things are rocking.
Well, that's probably true.
My
Because
neighbor.
Autumn's not afraid. If she's in the moment, she's just gonna let it
Wow!
go.
That's
My
what it sounds like.
neighbor told me. My neighbor told me, the one who lives across the hall from me. She's like, I already bring this up. Maybe I already brought
You
this
may have
up.
brought it up. This is like somebody seeing you.
She's
or
like, you know that your curtains
right.
are a little transparent. I'm like, why? I was like, well, I just thought you should know. I was like, and I said before we did talk about this, I
Yeah.
thought she saw me masturbating, but no. She watched me have sex, like silhouettes, but still you can kind of see through. And she's like, I had a salad. I sat there on the steps and watched.
Ay, 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 that's
Just
weird.
watched. Just watched me
That's
do it
weird.
and ate your
See, I wouldn't
salad
do
with
that.
your low-fat Italian dressing.
I think I'm different than most people. I would not do that. If I saw somebody in a silhouette, I would immediately turn away and go away. Like I don't know what it is. I don't like when people start talking in their sleep or something around you. I think most people are drawn toward that. Get a recorder, get whatever.
Yes.
I'm only interested in what people present to me as the personality they want me to know. I have no interest in knowing the deep, dark side of anybody. I just want to know what you want to present me. And I don't want to find out things while you're talking in your sleep that I wouldn't know about you. It creeps me out. It's like dead people talking. I run the other way.
I keep a running note in my iPhone of when Travis talks in his sleep.
Oh, but you're going to find out something weird at some point.
Well, can I read one for you?
As long as
It's
it
pretty
doesn't
awesome.
embarrass him.
It's called Trav Sleepy Notes. Is what he said, the X-rays are in nanometers. And I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I said, what should I do with them? He said, you could eat more protein if you want to bulk up. They make no sense.
Sooner or later, he's going to say something that's going to make it go, that's in his mind?
Oh,
That's what I don't want to know. I don't want to know. In every mind, in every brain, there are thoughts that we do not share with others.
but they don't make sense. None of these make any sense. I mean, talking in his sleep. Yeah,
This is the theme music for your Travis talkie time.
I blew my nose, and he said, "You can't get it out." I tried rotating it, however, in a gingerbread house. I was like, "Yeah, I can't get it out." And he said, "Ugh, stupid cats. They don't make sense."
So he talks a lot. He does this. This is
He does.
Does he
Yeah.
sleepwalk?
No, he twitches though a lot, like as he's falling asleep.
Well, everybody
or-
does that. Sometimes you wake yourself up.
But
You
he
ever
does
do
it a
that?
lot.
Drowning us out. The Romantics, ladies and gentlemen.
You got a career as a radio DJ, Eric.
There's the Romantics for you. I'm Eric Von Hasler with Time Life Music. You remember music, television, MTV? Boy, that was a great time. And while we can relive all those great memories, you'll see Duran Duran, Hungry Like the Wolf. The Romantics.
Hungry like the wolf.
The Romantics, Talking in Your Sleep. And that band, that I can't remember their name, but boy, were they big for 6 weeks on MTV. There's a few of those.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I was listening to this,
This would
in
be
the car
part
on
of
the
the
way
compilation.
Yeah, of course. Is this Owner of a Lonely Heart?
here.
Yes.
Here comes
Owner
the.
of
Huh.
a Lonely Heart.
I was listening to this on the way here.
Owner of a...
So that sound, that whank, what is that, and where did it come from?
It's like...
Lose yourself.
What is that sound? I don't know. Some sort of synthesized amalgam.
Amalgam. I love this song. Can we just
Synthesis.
play this?
No,
forever?
we cannot.
Your chances win or loser.
There's a... I always thought there's a lazy part of this song. This is Owner of a Lonely Heart. You could have gone on and wrote another lyric to follow up and said, much better than the...
I like that.
Much better than... That's a shitty lyric.
Much better than the owner of a broken heart. Much better than the owner of a...
I
He's
know,
saying
but
it's better than...
It's lazy.
No, it's not. Why is it lazy? He's saying the owner of a lonely heart is better than the broken of a...
I know what
wait,
it's
what did I
saying.
say?
Much better than
The
owner of a broken heart.
Yeah. So before... Well, this part doesn't make sense. Watch it now. Eagle in the sky. I'll be dancing
No,
one and
because
only.
eagles are lone. They don't have... All eagles are alone.
But then what's he say next? I'll be dancing one and only.
He's dancing one and only.
All right.
You don't want to be an eagles. Eagles have no friends.
Oh,
They have no friends. They're always one. They're just lone wolves. They're lone eagles.
I'm writing that down as a
Eagles have no
potential.
friends.
It makes perfect sense.
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I just think it's lazy. Like
think it's
much
lazy.
better than. There's some other way you
Much
could have
better
written.
than the. And then we
Right.
continue the
I
verse.
know, but I'm saying is I think you could have written two actual. It just seems lazy. To
What
me.
have you written lately?
Good question. Don't force
That's a
me.
terrible argument.
Don't
to make.
force me to pull out my poetry. I'll lay it right down
What's
here
your
on the
poetry
table.
about?
I want to hear Eric's poetry so bad.
My poetry is usually of the slam variety.
Oh, we could all do that.
I know. That's why I do
Slam
it.
poetry.
Slam poetry.
Slam variety, or I like to call it dog shit, not real poetry. Anyway,
You know, my poetry is kind of like the sun. It hurts. Why did you leave me, Dad? End of poem.
End of poem. Is that a end
Well,
of
that's
poem?
the last line of the poem.
End of poem.
I end every poem with that line. End of poem. That's my signature. That's when you know it's
People
a,
wait
it's a
for it.
Hessler original.
They go see him just for
Yeah.
that. They don't even care about the poetry.
Oh, maybe he'll say end of poem.
Remember when people were not remember? There were times when people were famous for being poets. You know, the Charge of the Light Brigade was like a hit record.
Who?
Was the Charge of the Light Brigade? Was that Tennyson?
Could you have a cricket
Tennyson?
sound that we could play?
No, if we weren't.
Why? Because you're not as
Hack radio
intelligent as
show.
I am?
No, I have no idea what any of that
You've
means.
never heard of the Charge of the Light Brigade?
Never.
I hope your parents didn't spend money on your education. I really, really
Because
hope.
I don't know a poet?
It's about an event in world history.
Oh.
The
what is
Charge
it?
of the Light Brigade.
I have no idea.
It was a very foolish charge.
Well, I
This
know.
you
About,
will
I know
if
about
you
the
had-
actual event. There was
I don't know anything.
Crimea, right?
Yeah, and it was stupid. Like they just did the
just
so
went in.
everybody died. I think it was useless. There was no reason for it.
Because I don't know that one thing, then my whole education is a bust.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Wow, education has dipped that low.
Oh,
were there-
come on.
I know the.
Is there any poem that you learned in school growing up?
Do you know the Iron Maiden song? The same name.
Charge of the Light Brigade.
Yeah.
They
No.
start the same. Well, play that. Maybe. Was it Tennyson? Somebody? Do I have to go to the Hall of Records to find this out?
The poem is Tennyson. I
Okay.
looked that up, but
I've heard that name before.
Give me the first verse, Greg. You're a good poetry slammer.
my god.
Too many things.
That's my fourth least favorite male orgasm sound.
Oh
You
my
just made-
god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh my
Oh my god.
It reminds me like the Tommy Lee one with Pamela Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, oh, you're so good looking. You're so good
Oh, yeah.
looking.
So
You're so fucking. You're so sexy. You're so sexy. Do you really want to hear that? I mean, I'm sure it's better than you're so ugly.
You're not into, you know what I mean? Like when you're when
You're
you're
not
in,
hearing these.
yeah,
things.
you're not here. Yeah, you're not present. If you are that present, then it,
So what did you want?
sad.
Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death. Rode the 600 forward, the light brigade. Charge for the guns, he said, into the valley
You are
of
the
death.
worst
Rode the
poetry
600.
reader. Then he went over there and he said hi. Jesus.
That's my style. That's what people come see. The deadpan delivery.
All right, I'll find it.
Watch it now. Eagle in. Let's keep talking about that. I don't know what this Tennyson poetry bullshit
Maybe
is.
you'll learn something. All right. I'm gonna knock that 1-star review up to 3 by having some intellectual stuff going on here.
What poems do any of us know? I can't.
Nobody
I
knows
don't
poems
know.
anymore. Michael, were you taught any poems in your
like in my life?
no from school?
Like, can you recall a poem right now?
Not really. I used to know a lot of German poems. My grandmother used to give me a lot of German poems, but they were real creepy. I'm trying to think.
Like you can't remember the poem, but what story was creepy?
Ich liebe Kashande. I can't speak German.
They're like, they're all like scary. I remember the pictures more than anything.
Sure.
They were all like basically taught you how to, taught you like what not to do. I think they were called like Erkelings or something. They're like,
Oh, they basically scared the shit out of you as a kid, so you wouldn't do something wrong.
That makes me think
Yeah.
of there was an Office episode where Dwight was gave like a German fairy tale. It was called
Yeah.
like Strulpeter.
it basically like showed
they would
kids
cut off
that
little
like
kids' thumbs.
they would get murdered because they didn't keep their fingernails clipped
Right,
properly.
right.
That's true. In Germany, that's true. They're very, very tough on that cleanliness.
Hey,
Personal.
that
cleanliness.
works. If you go look at my medicine cabinet while you're at my apartment, there's like 5 pair of nail clippers in there.
Why do you need?
Always
5?
got to keep them trimmed.
Why do you need more?
Yeah,
than
because at some point, even the apartment's so small,
You
once
lose 'em,
once
you
you
misplace
use them,
them,
you
right.
just put them somewhere and you don't
Yeah.
go put them back in place.
half a league, half a league, half a league onward. All in the valley of death rode the 600. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said. Into the valley of death rode the 600. 600 people, all slaughtered. It was and all the generals were like up on the hill, you know, drinking martinis, or not martinis. I mean, it was the old classic style of fighting where the generals had parasols over them or whatever. Right. And there were some people amongst the generals going like, "There's no chance here," and it was all done on this is good English fighting stock, and they just made these fucking cavalrymen march into this battle. They had no chance of winning whatsoever, and they all died, I believe.
Wow.
This is the Iron Maiden version.
You'll take my life, but I'll take yours too. You fire musket, but I'll run you through. So when you're waiting for the next attack, you better stand, there's no turning back. The newer sounds, the charge begins. On this battlefield, no one
I was waiting for that part.
Cannon to right of them, cannon to left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed and thundered, stormed at with shot and shell, boldly they rode, and well, into the jaws of death, into the mouth of hell, rode the 600. And literally, you've got these affected generals up on the hill, eating
Crumpets.
caviar, crumpets, and whatever. I think warfare changed after that. It was a time where...
Hey,
was a
Stonewall
time where-
Jackson went into the war.
It was time...
Civil War.
What?
Stonewall Jackson, he was a real man.
Yeah?
He used to, right there,
Uh-huh.
on the battlefield
And he
with
died.
his troops.
He died, didn't he?
Yeah, he did die.
He died because he was a douchebag who always was getting his head up in the head of the troops. Did he die from a bullet wound to his ankle, I think? He bled to death under a tree, if I'm thinking of the right person. Stonewall Jackson. I believe he bled to death because of that. But this was a time, and I think it kind of changed warfare after this. I don't know this for a fact. But it was a time...
Complications of pneumonia.
Oh. Who's the guy who died under the tree? Hooker? No, not Hooker. Who am I talking about? God, doesn't anybody know any history around here?
No.
Civil War history outside of Lincoln, I'm not really into because I think it's a ridiculous war.
It was, but
stupid.
it's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
But I think the Charge Light Brigade...
in terms of Lincoln having to hold the country together. Outside of that, these idiots, my state. Lee, I'm loyal to his state, Virginia. Okay, Virginia's beautiful, I guess. Anyone's loyal to North Carolina.
apparently
no thanks.
Lee didn't even have any slaves. He didn't really believe in it, but he couldn't fight against Virginia. Lincoln wanted him.
I know. They
tried to get
but
him-
at that point, you were loyal to your state.
Yeah, because the country was, not together all that long at that point. So your state was really... The whole idea in the beginning was that the states were going to be kind of more powerful in most things other than national defense than the federal
You
government.
got the
But
rebel flag. You know why they got the rebel flag?
Why?
You're taking me into... I wanted to explain this first.
I was just going to say because the Confederate flag was too close to the American flag and they were getting confused.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they switched it because it's still the Confederate States of America flag. Then you have the battle flag.
Oh, right.
What is
Sonny lied. Sonny lied.
Yeah, those douchebags. I'll tell you something. When I
Miss those.
love the state of Georgia. I love the people of Georgia. I'm so glad that I moved here. I really do. I love it. But when I see whenever a pickup truck comes around the corner with the old Confederate license plate,
yeah.
I'm like, there is no circumstance under which I will talk to that guy unless he walks.
No, the first thing you think of is Dad.
Is that you? But
He's
the follow-up,
back.
the charge of the Light Brigade, I believe, when that happened, there was reforms because there was a period of time where generals actually ordered men to die, knowing they couldn't win the battle because it was about honor. So you are going to, but the generals didn't go down there and die.
Right.
They would just order other people to show a good face for the, don't wimp out. Now battle is differently. Generals say, look, we don't have a chance to win here. Let's retreat, go back, turn around, and the objective now is to win every battle. And back then it was like, well, show good face and go out there and let them know that they had to fight somebody and blah 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 blah. And meanwhile, the generals
Rabble.
sitting up on a hill with parasols over them. They might as well be at fucking Wimbledon. Oh, can you imagine ordering somebody into their death for honor, but you're not going to do it?
Well, you earn the right not to have to do it.
You earn the right,
You
right,
get to
exactly.
sit there in your fancy clothes and
That's
your,
right.
your gold embroidered jacket.
I think it really, if the movie is anything like the truth of it, they had servants with them. Like the generals on the hill had servants who were running and getting them lemonade or whatever while they're ordering these 600 people into a certain death for some kind of, and there were a couple generals, I think, that were against it. But they were looked at like, oh, what's wrong with you? Have you no honor?
Yeah, honor was totally different. Do we have any honor now?
Well,
I mean, we kind of have face, you know, like where you, well, I said I would come to this event, so I have to either go or call last minute and make up like
That's
a
what it's
reason why
become.
I'm sick.
That's
You
honor
go die.
now.
You go die on the battlefield, and now,
Honestly,
if I keep my promise to go to that opening,
Right.
Well, imagine
that's honorable.
Imagine dying for. It's bad enough to kind of die for an idea, but I mean, a lot of people have died for an idea called America and the Republic and that sort of thing. But people used to die. Anybody read War and Peace? I know it's 1,500 pages. It's amazing, but
It's all a bunch of bullshit anyway.
it was people were just dying for the Tsar, or the king. Or the queen. It wasn't even really about an idea at that point because the king, you're dying for the king who can tell you what to do. So at least Americans that die, they die for this concept of, having a republic and a democracy and freedom and all that kind of stuff. Even to this day, if you died in Iraq, you're in your mind as a soldier. You say, I'm in Iraq. It's kind of weird, but I'm here because I want America to stay free.
Let's say
and then you can argue about whether you should be there for that, but that's what the soldier's thinking. Most people who have died on battlefields in this world died because of a dude's name, like the honor of the king, the honor of the Tsar. And I mean, this was back when you were dying for the honor of the Tsar. You were laying on a battlefield bleeding to death for 7 hours. I mean, it was not like now. At least you get shot in the head and your brains are all over the place.
But let's say you refuse to go. You're going to go fight, and you say no. They're probably going to kill you anyway, right?
Yeah, there's no getting around.
You may as well go because then there's where the honor comes from. It's like, I'm going to die, but at least people won't say that guy was a
and you
terrible
don't bring
piece of
shame
shit
to your family
after the
your
fact.
family,
Yeah, 'cause
right?
the
Your
societal
family,
pressures at that point were pretty high too. It's like he refused to go. Now we're going to go town square and watch him. Watch them behead him.
Yeah, the whole family.
And then the family has to go into hiding.
Right.
It's like, oh, you guys, you had that son who was a pussy. That's why you go.
What about was it Alexander who went to war for 30 years? He took an army. They went out and conquered lands, and for 30 years.
What else was there to do?
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't much.
And he wanted to keep going, and finally somebody convinced him, yeah, come on. Yeah,
He's the one who got elephants, right? He took elephants over
That
mountains.
was
I
Hannibal.
think so.
That
Oh,
was
no.
Hannibal.
Was it?
I think it was Hannibal.
Wasn't Alexander?
Yeah, it was Hannibal. But no, Alexander, good Lord. I mean, can you imagine for 30 years, your whole life?
I mean, it's job security, right? Like, I'm in
Certainly.
charge of this war.
And this guy, Alexander, was having sex with all the soldiers. And he
Are you
was
talking about Alexander the Great?
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great was barely alive for 30 years. He was born in 32. He was like
Oh, right.
33, 34 when he died.
Well, I'm talking about Alexander.
I think I've heard.
I didn't make this up out of whole cloth.
And he did use elephants over the Alps, brought elephants and just scared the
I thought that
armies.
was Hannibal.
Well, maybe Hannibal did it too, but Alexander the Great's known for doing it.
Okay, can you tell me how long? Who went to war for 30 years, conquering countries?
Yeah, Alexander the Great was 32 when he died.
George Bush.
So you're saying like
Maybe
he
it was his father. I mean, I gotta know the answer to this. I know this is true. I know that somebody took his people to war for 30 straight years.
30 as well.
Conquering. No, that was like just
Right, that's something
defending
else.
your own land. This guy was out conquering parts of the world. I mean, there's an Alexandria. That's why there's Alexandrias in different places.
Right.
Was it his?
30 years of conquering cancer worldwide. That's what a Google search
fuck
says.
it. Maybe I'm wrong. Fuck it.
Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton
That's not the
was
right timeline.
killed by Aaron Burr, or was it the other way around?
I learned that from a milk commercial.
That's right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, at least there's some place to get your history these days.
Yeah.
Non-president on our money. Get out of here.
He was the first secretary
I
of the
get
Treasury,
that.
I believe.
understand that. He was in charge of the money, but get out of here.
Was he? Did he kill Aaron
Franklin,
Burr?
I give
Aaron
it to,
Burr-
but Franklin was too old. Franklin could have been president. He was just old.
Oh, Franklin probably definitely would have been a president, but people don't realize that the revolution. Franklin was dead before 1800. Franklin was dead.
He was-
in the
he was
90s. I believe.
much older than
maybe
everyone.
the 80s. Yeah, he was way old, and at the end of his career, at the end of his life, when the revolution started, he had. You know how many people think he discovered electricity? Anyway, but he had done the thing with the kite 40 years earlier than the revolution, or somewhere in that area.
Well, he
You know,
was. He invented bifocals.
he did that like when
the
he was
Franklin stove.
like, yeah, he did all that kind of. He did
First world celebrity going around to France
Yeah.
banging all the women.
Oh yeah, he was a world
Yeah.
celebrity.
Benjamin Franklin's coming to the country.
This country wouldn't exist without Benjamin Franklin because when you can have all those names on there on that document that you want, but it was Ben Franklin was the person that the people in Europe, he was the American that they loved, and he was famous. And I always wondered, why? Not why. I always wondered if he had been caught, would they have killed him? I don't know if they would have killed Ben Franklin. I think he was too beloved. I think to do that too, because Ben Franklin. I mean, when you think about it now, I mean, he created the lightning rod, right? Mm-hmm. People's homes.
That was his nickname too.
Oh yeah, he had like 80 kids.
Could you imagine if that guy being a stud? That fat, wooden teeth, smelly, bald. Ugh, makes me wish I lived back then so I could be. I would be a catch.
That's when he was older, though. He wasn't always like that. But
he was still slaying the broads.
Before the lightning rod, people's homes just blew up. Like you would have a lightning storm. The homes weren't made that well, and people's homes would just catch fire and blow up. So here you got a guy who you look at that way. It's like, wow, lightning storms I don't have to worry,
right?
Because of this thing this guy invented. He was beloved in Europe, and I always wondered if they had caught him, and captured him, if they actually would have, anybody would have been. That's the thing about these guys. When they signed the Declaration of Independence, they were signing their death warrants if they had not won. Everybody who signed that was going to be hanged because it was treason at that time against the king. So, and I just always wonder about Franklin. I want to write one of those alternate history books.
He was one of the
they
first.
catch Franklin.
He was one of the first supporters of the wave theory of light.
Whoa.
He's one of the guys that did also journalism,
Yeah.
inventing, had
Yeah.
time to be a founding father and lead a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Where does the time come from?
I know, to travel to
You want
France
to know why?
and have all
You
this
know where the
sex.
time came from? They didn't have television.
Because he didn't go home and take naps.
No, they did. They didn't have television.
Let's
They
go home
didn't-
and
Or their
sleep
phones.
after this.
No,
I'm
they didn't
beat.
have television. They didn't have computers. They didn't have Xboxes. They didn't have this sort of stuff. You want to write to somebody? You got to sit down with a feather quill pen and write a long letter, and don't fuck anything up, because then you got to restart the whole letter again. So everything, days lasted longer. You could get more done in a day.
Yeah, 'cause
Because
you
you
might
weren't
wake
watching
up with the
Judge Joe
sun.
Brown.
You
weren't-
also they didn't have running water, or they didn't have people cleaning up the horse shit in the streets. So you just sat in your house all day, trying not to go out and talk to anybody because you didn't want to have to deal with life. So you just sat and wrote all these weird pondering stories about lightning bolts, and because you just didn't want to face reality.
Well, here's the thing:
What a
concept
mess to live back then.
of cooling with Franklin. It seems like a very obvious thing, but people, I guess, this was revolutionary thinking at the time, not just leading the revolution in the country. Franklin noted a principle of refrigeration by observing that on a very hot day, he stayed cooler in a wet shirt in a breeze.
Somebody's got to be the
It
first
was
to
like
write
radical
it down.
thinking. It's like, oh wow, look at this.
So then but no, everybody probably noticed that.
Well, but-
he was the first one who said, "What can I build
Well,
to
yeah,
make that?"
At that point, he looked into the phenomenon of why that happened and started to figure it out. So he
Right.
provided an inspiration to refrigeration down the line.
Exactly. I mean, but it's if you lived in the world with, and yes, I'm not making it
Idealizing?
ideal. You're right, Michael. There was horse shit in the streets all over, no doubt about it. You think
People died of blood
you think
poisoning.
our pollution is bad. I mean, it was right there in dollops all over the road. But you you would not believe how much time you would have in a day. Here's if you didn't have television, if you didn't have a computer, if you didn't have these sort of things. I mean, one thing I know about Ben Franklin is he never sat down and binge watched House of Cards. He never sat and watched 13 episodes in one day of anything.
Well, he also didn't have pot cookies, so
Well, he was a toker. I believe that he was a hemp farmer.
Same with George Washington,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they all were.
At the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah,
it only became
was the
illegal
new cash
because
crop.
black people started smoking it. Those jazz black people, and like, oh my God, they're
Yeah,
having
they're
sex with
gonna-
our white women and they're smoking their reefer.
Exactly.
something had to be done, Greg.
Yes.
ruining our country.
Because my daughter would never have sex with a black man unless she was under the influence of a drug, because she's my
Well, it was
daughter.
him.
And do you know my
It made
family
him,
name?
It made him aggressive.
Right.
He's smoking
Right.
the
Made
Because
the
pot
black
my
man
daughter
wild.
would never actually crave a black penis.
Nobody
It's like-
raised.
and that
No
still
way.
goes
I
on.
raised her better
Yeah,
than that.
That's right. Our family name, it's never happened before. It must have been the marijuana. There's no way my daughter would actually want to do this. I mean, that was and that kind of thinking still goes on. You remember the football player from the mid 2000s, a locally high school player who got charged with rape. I think there was a whole story. I think he was a walk-on for the Falcons or something after. There was a whole story about it. But he went to jail for a long time for rape. And, like, it was statutory rape. He was, like, 18. She was 17. And the reason that it happened was because big old white Southern daddy wasn't about to admit that his 17-year-old daughter actually wanted some black cock. He wasn't going to deal with that. There's no way. In order for my daughter to be in that situation, it must have been forced. This guy never raped anybody. He was in jail for, like, 10 years, I think. Yes. It was ridiculous. And it was completely the whole defense was, look at my daughter. She's a good person. She's would
so
never
innocent.
crave. She would never crave to have sex with that man. You know, it was really. You know, the guy was let out. He didn't. I would have killed that old man. I would if I was in jail because some stupid redneck was a racist for 10 years, I would get out of jail and be back in jail within a month. Because the first thing I'd do is go kill that motherfucker.
You may be confusing stories. There is a story where a football player.
I probably am.
Well, I think there was a guy who went to jail for quite a while for that very thing. But the guy of the Falcons, Brian Banks.
Okay, I'm mixing those
He was the woman accused him of raping her, and then he accepted a plea deal because it was 41 years to life.
Right.
In
That's what they
prison
do.
if he fought it, so he took 5 years. But yes, this guy was a good football player, probably would have made it to the NFL. This happened. He went to jail for 5 years, but while he was there, she came out and was like, "Yeah, I made that up. That didn't really happen."
Yeah,
After
yeah.
she had sued the school where she said it happened and collected money, and then
So
trying to-
this just they didn't
my
even have
God.
sex in the Brian Banks situation.
Well,
or
yeah.
they did, and she,
No, they
she
did.
no,
tried rape.
she
She went
says
along
that he
with it.
dragged her into a stairway and he raped her there.
Right, because Dad wanted to know why she was pregnant or something. I guarantee you. I don't know
even
what
that.
whatever it was.
I think she just saw an
Or did she just
opportunity to
make
get
it up?
some money.
No, hold on. What I want to know here is, did they have sex or did she make it up out of whole cloth?
This one doesn't say if they actually had sex or not.
Okay.
It sounds like she just made it up because it's stairway. Maybe they went into the stairway and had sex. People do that.
And she sued the school, and she did,
Yeah. She got some money, and then she came out and said, "Hey, it's not true," and they released him, and now she spent it all.
Of course she
millions
did.
of
She
dollars.
didn't give any of that money back.
Yeah, they think they're going to get back.
Well, why wouldn't she go to jail at that point? That's my question. Isn't
That's
it against
the
the
thing.
law to wrongfully accuse someone?
Sorry, I apologize. I was under duress. Everything's fine now, right? Get him out of jail. It's fine. We're good. Everything good. We're good. That's
you're
how
out
it
of
works.
jail, right?
Yeah,
So
you're out of jail. Everything's copacetic.
are you sitting at home right now? Okay, then.
Count
Yeah.
your lucky stars.
At
Okay,
the end,
so-
I hate that people say that. Like at the end of the day,
Yeah,
you're
I
out
hate-
of jail. I got some money. No harm, no foul.
So he was going to go to USC. He was still in
Right.
high school, but he was
Which
a
is an
standout
NFL,
player.
which is a great place to head toward the NFL from.
So basically, it ruined his career too, because he was at training camp with the Falcons last year. They gave him a chance to
But
play.
he's not.
He's done. He's been gone for years. He hasn't
Yeah.
played, and
I think the Cowboys gave him a shot first, and then the Falcons. I'm not sure.
He should be allowed to have sex with her now. They should force it.
now, and yes, the state should drag her into the stairwell.
Absolutely.
And bring it-
Absolutely.
I mean, she walks away
Ruined that guy's
scot-free.
life. Ruined that guy's life. She should go to jail.
Absolutely.
She should serve time. She should be doing chain gang work
Yeah.
on the side of the highway with a sign that says, "I lied about a guy raping me, and here I am serving my punishment, serving my time,
Yeah.
doing my penance." Fuck that lady. I hate her.
Yeah, no, I can't. But I guess the thing that I would say on the other side of that, Michael, is if that were the case and she knew that, she never would have admitted. She never would have. Her conscience, no matter how much it ate at her, she would never have come out and admitted that she lied, knowing that she was going to go to jail. See what I'm saying? So
well,
at
she,
least
she
the guy's
actually
out.
didn't come out. It doesn't give the details. The conviction was overturned after the accuser was secretly recorded admitting she had fabricated the story.
Okay, so she was secretly recorded.
but she was telling people. Still
Right.
stupid.
She should be electrocuted.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But it's just as bad. The story you were talking about, there was a guy, I don't know if it was 6 years
Try to
ago
look
now.
it up. Try to look it up. It's just Georgia
there-
rape.
But yeah, there was a
Football, high
there was a
school
young guy.
rape.
It was statutory rape, but they were pretty close in age. It was like 18 and 17, and
Right.
Yeah, that's another story too. That guy went to jail.
I got to see the story. I got to find a high school.
I hate that whole statutory rape thing, especially when it's something like that, like you said, 18 and 17.
I get why it's in place, but it doesn't need to be so black and white. Look at it for what it is.
Right.
Exactly.
You're right. It should be white and white.
But yeah.
No, statutory rape is when he's 30 and she's 16.
Right.
To me, that's statutory.
Totally.
It's not when he's 18 and
they've,
she's 17.
And they've been together since they were freshmen in high school.
That's when Daddy
give me a
steps
break.
in and says, I'm a real estate icon. I own half of Canton. Everyone knows my name. So the name has to be cleaned up. So this guy has to pay for it.
Or even,
Marcus Dixon. Was that it? Yeah. Marcus Dixon. Marcus Dixon.
That's it.
My computer is unbelievably slow. But I click on a link and my computer's like, what? I was sleeping. American football. Oh, no, he's in the defense. He was.
No, that's someone else then. What was this guy's name? Who knows?
People will tell us.
It says that he was in Titan. Also known for being. This is it. He's also known for being. Oh, this is the one who was a Cowboy then. Okay, so he was with the Titans and then signed to Dallas Cowboys as an undrafted free agent. Played college football at Hampton University. Dixon is also known for being wrongfully convicted in May 2003 of molesting an underage girl while he was in high school. That charge was overturned by the Georgia Supreme Court, while his conviction for statutory rape was sustained.
Oh, wait. So these are two different instances with two different people?
No, he was charged with both. One was dropped.
As many as you throw at someone, that's what you do.
Yeah,
Here are all these charges. Some are going to fall, but hopefully one will stick.
But to be accused of statutory rape and molestation of what I don't understand.
Well, I just don't get hung up on it. Christy Brown, I mean, really.
Well, it's weird.
It's on Wikipedia, so it's true. Christy Brown alleged that on February, I'm calling you out. Christy Brown alleged that on February 10th, 2003, Dixon forced her to have sex, taking her virginity. She has stated that contrary to Dixon's supporters' belief, she was never Dixon's girlfriend. Although they shared classes, they barely knew each other. The jury acquitted Dixon of rape, battery, assault, and false imprisonment, but because Brown was only 15 at the time, they found him guilty of statutory rape. So he was 18, she was 15. I guess they were both still in high school. I mean, that's a bigger split, 18 and 15. You're getting there on the bubble. But
you're getting there.
Statutory rape.
If you're both in high school, I think if you're out of high school at that point,
okay, you're both in high school. It's at least
it's freshman to senior. It's not that big of a deal. I mean,
right?
It can be. Then the age gap, 15 to 18,
at that age is big. Yeah.
But I don't know. If you're both going to the same school, you're both in high school.
I guess after he was released, they both appeared on Oprah to tell their stories. So I have no idea.
And if she's the kind of person that's going to make that story up, maybe there's no wonder that she's having sex at 15.
Right, and that's another thing. Daddy my 15-year-old daughter. This is me. This is my speculation. Okay, this is not a reality. This is me reacting to this story the first time I heard it living in the South.
He's got the rebel flag on the back of his pickup truck.
My 15-year-old white daughter would never willingly have sex with a black man.
Yeah,
that's the thought. And I have to clean up this name. When in reality, I don't know about this girl. Let's say it's not this case. Let's say there are cases like this because I cannot afford to be sued right now. So let's go into an alternate universe in a case that's not this case but that bears many similarities. Right. Then it ends up being exactly what I just said. I think often that dad ain't with it. And two things he's dealing with. His daughter at 15 is maybe a bit of a slut, and he doesn't want to admit that. And she's not even being a slut with white kids. And I could be totally wrong because the girl could be black for all I know.
Yeah, I mean, to call her a slut, I mean,
I think an aggressive statement. As much as I like to pick on and call people the whores and guys assholes, being sexually active doesn't mean you're a slut. That's such a stupid word.
Well, what age though would you encourage sexual
It
activity?
could be that it's not that she's a slut; it's that she's trying to escape from something, from home maybe, or from something that happened to her. If I wanted Dr.
Drew's point of view, I would have invited him on the show. It's just a joke.
What?
She's white, and there's a picture of her dad, old daddy,
old Southern daddy. Old Southern daddy.
Good old boy.
When someone
Sonny lied.
Sonny, that son of a bitch, he lied.
He said he would come into the office and let's vote on the flag.
It was the
Which
they war.
They did get to vote on the flag, just not the one that they wanted.
Right.
Because Sonny lied.
Sonny lied.
Someone about that war of northern aggression.
Someone went around town and nailed those signs to light poles.
Sonny lied.
I loved those signs. They were funny.
Really? You care that much?
Sonny lied.
A stupid piece of cloth that flaps in the wind.
It's the principle.
It's principle stand for something they don't. And it ain't civil. This is my favorite. Again, I love living in Georgia. I love the people of Georgia. I've lived in many places. This is my favorite place that I've ever lived. But I love the Southerner who wants to sit me down with a beer and tell me how the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery. Very interesting. Let me sit here and keep on consuming. Let's see. You were using humans as cattle. Okay, and when the war was over,
We treated them right.
you weren't able to use them. So
Not all of the slave owners were beating them. Some of them were feeding them chicken twice a day.
The question for
The
people,
Jewish slave owners were nice. They treated them
well,
properly.
they had been through it themselves, of course. The real question for people who say that the Civil War wasn't about slavery is, well, how come there was no more slavery after the Civil War? Was that just a byproduct of the war? Oh, while we're at it. Of course, it had everything to do. It was about states' rights. We had a plan to free them within 50 to 100 years. We wanted to do it at our own timetable. The Civil War is the most misunderstood conflict, I think. As much as it's studied, and we have the PBS specials, I figured this out on my own. I'm not somebody who's read a bunch of books on this, but on this point of view, I've read a bunch of books on the Civil War. But what I've gleaned from it, and nobody really talks about, is that the Civil War was not about the North, and it was not about the South. It was about the West, which was being settled, and which the northern or the southern laws and lifestyle was going to go out west. Mm-hmm. That's what it was all about. That was the case, very famous case that I should remember the name of, that I can't, where the freed slave, slave owner takes slave with him to Missouri, I think, Dred Scott, to Missouri, and Missouri was a free state at the time. So Dred Scott gets there and says to his owner, I'm in a free state, I'm a free man. Goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court says no, because he was property that you brought to Missouri. It's yours. And so the laws of your territory, your state, whatever, are what applies here. And that began to freak people out, because as people were, they going to bring all their slaves west, and that court order was going to hold that they were allowed to have slavery in the West. This is a reason that a lot of people criticize Lincoln and say he was a racist because he never said he wanted to abolish slavery, which is the truth, because he was amongst a group of people who thought, isolate the South. We don't need to go to war over this. Isolate them, let them have slavery, let everyone else settle the rest of the country, and we will strangle them. And what will happen is, after a while, the whole country will be free, and they will be forced to come along with the rest of the country. Lincoln was not in favor of slavery. He was against going to war to free the slaves, which is a difference. And there were a lot of people who thought, as long as we just keep it where it is and then grow the country in a different fashion, they'll come along.
They wanted the slow and steady.
Slow and steady kind of thing. And
like,
also
this isn't going to happen
war,
forever.
brother against brother, is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something, now we look at it in hindsight. But
they knew. I mean, that's one of the things that pissed off South Carolina to secede from the Union, was just the election of Abraham Lincoln, because that was his approach. He didn't want to just knock it out immediately, but they knew.
That's why they started the war.
They viewed him as anti-slavery.
Right.
And that was one of the big things, too.
That's why the South seceded and basically
He was
started the
elected
war.
and
Because
screw this.
Lincoln was not going to declare war on the South. He just wasn't going to let that lifestyle and that culture grow into the rest of the country as people. Because, I mean, I'm right? I mean, the Southerners started the war.
Yes.
With the attack on Fort Sumter. Was that it? My brain. I got a lot of history in my brain, but it rattles around. I believe it was the attack on Fort Sumter. Which
then you're
was
mad
before,
at us when we don't know the answer.
It was before the war started. Well, I figure you guys are closer to the school books. You had your schooling.
But we're further away from this history.
Well, I'm not so much older. What do you think? I was born
old.
the day after the war ended?
Yeah, I thought your dad was in Civil War, right?
Yes, he was. My grandfather.
Oh.
Vietnam was
Your
going
uncle.
on when I was born. That was my war when I was growing.
That was my war. That wasn't even a war.
Then Watergate.
Conflict.
That was a conflict, right?
Boom! I dropped some knowledge on this topic.
There was a police action, actually.
It was
police action is known as was Korea. We'd already made the mistake in Korea, and that ended in a stalemate.
Sumter, though, was where it began. I think
Fort Sumter.
They stole a bunch of supplies or something, right?
Well,
stole
South Carolina
supplies.
seceded from the Union, and then there were federal troops there. I guess you'd call them U.S. troops at that point.
Yeah.
And they were told to leave, and they didn't leave, and they tried to take over.
It's a Crimea situation.
Yeah, they tried to take over the fort, and then I think the Southerners shot the first shot.
Yes, they did.
Shot for shot.
And Lincoln still tried to get, but then Lincoln immediately, if he tried to stay out of the war, boy, the things. If people think they hate Bush and Cheney, I love what history does. If people think that what the NSA is doing now is like horrible, whatever, and Lincoln is beloved by everyone, but after Fort Sumter, he immediately got rid of habeas corpus. I mean, he immediately said, we can arrest people and not even tell people that we've arrested them. Something went down around Baltimore or something like that, and he started just arresting people, no rights, no nothing, because he was trying to, I think, still head off the war at that point.
He was blatantly against the he was constantly disregarding the Constitution for any of his own gain too.
What he thought was, we have an old. That was great because it sounds like an 80-year-old historian.
Yeah.
Just trying to be accurate here.
That's how he ends his slam poetry.
Lincoln was the first of the. Lincoln would have agreed with the Bush-Cheney doctrine, which is, and it can be abused. Any doctrine can be abused, but the Bush-Cheney doctrine, the Lincoln doctrine, is. If you want to put it on a bumper sticker, the Constitution is not a suicide pact. We do not have to follow the letter of the Constitution if doing that means that we will lose the country. It's known as
It's the spirit of the Constitution.
It's called an existential threat. When you as president believe that this threat means that if you don't win, you lose the country, that your country goes, then you have the ability to do whatever is necessary to save the country. It's very controversial. It can be abused. But if you hated Bush and Cheney, don't fucking talk to me about your love for Lincoln because he was doing more of it, and much closer to the time that the Constitution had been ratified. Only, 70 some odd years after the Constitution had been ratified.
John Merriman, a state legislator from Maryland, he was hindering the movement of Union troops from Baltimore to D.C., and he was arrested for it. His lawyer put in a writ of habeas corpus, and then that's when Lincoln just suspended it and said, all right.
Because because if he didn't, then there was a precedent that you could stop Union soldiers, and that's what's called an existential threat. That's what people don't understand
At
now
that point, though,
about the NSA.
Why does it apply to you? If you're hindering the Union soldiers who represent the United States, and so you're obviously against them, then why does the Constitution apply?
Because you're an American.
But I guess Maryland was one of those border states. But let's say you were in South Carolina and you've seceded from the Union.
They hadn't seceded yet. All this was in the build-up to the Civil War. The war was actually. I don't know how much time went by between Fort Sumter and Bunker Hill. Was Bunker Hill the first big battle?
Stop asking questions. We can't answer.
I just keep looking things up.
You don't give me enough time to Google.
I think that there was time here, and there was a buildup going on after he got elected, and then immediately the South started doing things that I'm not a scholar. I read a bunch, but it doesn't. I don't know about you, but my brain. I think Greg, you're better than me of things sticking.
Yeah,
I can
just
read
stop there.
all around, all told.
Better than me.
Yep.
Just better all the way around. More neurotic.
Right.
I could never achieve such neuroses. But yeah, I think I when I read and stuff, it doesn't stick with me. I love to read, and I love to get information, but very little of it actually sticks. I just get these sort of shadows, like I think Lincoln he did something in Maryland, and that pissed people off, and it's all. After I read a book of facts, it all is like these sort of shadows and notions.
You have to be in a very particular spot to retain knowledge when I'm reading now, because if I'm in public, and I can read on the train, for example, but sometimes I find myself reading the same paragraph 10 times,
right?
Because I'm going to pay attention this time, because you're listening to someone else speak. There's other things happening, and I'm reading, but I'm not taking it in.
There's
and
the hip hop group warming up on the back of the train.
Yeah. Then I realize that I haven't taken in any of it, so I'll go back and read it. And then you tell yourself, I'm going to pay attention this time, and then immediately I'm distracted again.
A lot of times, if I'm listening to a podcast that I really want to retain this information, I'll maybe listen to it again, or I'll stop and explain it to myself.
Ooh.
And that way I can always remember.
You must look crazy if you walk in on that.
Yeah, well, I'm walking down the street usually, and that's what I did this weekend.
What, you're talking and walking, and you're
well,
talking
I just turned off the podcast, and I was like, okay, so when you don't give enough, I'm just saying it under my breath.
Audio books are tough for me. I like audio books because I love to read, but I'm I can't read in a moving vehicle. I can't, I easily get sick. My eye, I have inner ear, whatever. I just easily get sick. And so I love to kind of sit back, and plus these people who read like off of Audible books and stuff like that, I mean, they're great. Their voice is better than the voice in my head. The voice in my head when I'm reading is pretty dull. No. And then these guys read to you, and it's like Shakespearean actors, so they bring it to life.
I'd like to read like I recited the poem.
Right.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness.
That's about what my inner voice is. I'm just collecting data at that
blah,
point.
blah, blah.
So I like to listen to the audio books, but my brain tends to wander. And so I'll, when I'm listening to last night, while I'm still listening to Parallel Worlds, Michio Kaku. And
Is he reading it?
No. Thankfully, it's not him reading it. It's somebody else. I can't take his voice for too long. He's got a professional reading it, and it's very good. But in the middle of really explaining M theory or something, I start wandering off like the thing I would really like to tell my sister-in-law if I was in front of her face right now. And it's weird the way your brain works, because you're in a certain place and you're listening to something, and then you start thinking about something else, and you're like over there, like I'm in front of that sister-in-law, and I'm like giving her a piece of my mind, and then I come back and I'm like, oh, what was that about M? And then I go back and I have to listen again. I go back to the top of the chapter.
Sure.
Cassette? You listened on cassette?
I used to listen on cassette.
It's harder to go back to the top of the chapter.
Yeah.
Just rewind.
Well, that's like the different types of learning, right? Is like the visual learner, the audio learner, the textural. Is that one?
Tactile.
Tactile.
I touch things.
The text learner is somebody who only learns through texts.
Text the
Things
only
that
way.
are texted to them.
Texted to them.
That's the
LOL.
only way they can learn.
Yeah, like I remember, I know some people like could go to a class and not write any notes and just pay attention to the lecture and just remember everything when it comes to the test. But like I had to write everything down, and then when I would go back and study it, I would remember me writing it, and I would remember like certain details about the room or something. I would like it would.
But
all
you're right about
click into
speaking
me.
it. If you speak it, it sticks better. Apparently, in your brain, if you know the answer to something and you speak it out loud,
Oh
it
my
sticks
God.
better than just rolling around in your brain.
So that's what you should do if you're still in class. Just repeat
Just
what
learn.
the,
Well, it's
what the
teaching
professor's
yourself.
teaching you.
Teach yourself.
I used to take notes that because I was lazy at note taking, so I would just write short sentences and fragments. And
They're meaningless later.
yeah,
when you
it's
go
like,
back
what
to
did I mean by that? But I would think that at the time.
Oh, that's enough.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I was like, I know what this will mean, and then I have no clue what that means.
And you go back and it's like, go up to the end and over. What? Up to the end and over? What is that? Huh? That's like encapsulating what should be 3 paragraphs. You're so convinced that little note will jog
Right.
everything else that you have no idea when you get there.
Well, I mean, I went through 3 years of learning how to be a linguist and learning about grammar, but I never knew so much about grammar until I taught it.
Well,
you know?
because that is the way that you actually learn. It's
Right,
it's
you
the
learn
best
your-
way.
yeah, you-
It's
yeah.
some of the best students. This is why I don't know if it's Montessori that does it. I think it is Montessori.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of the teaching methods really work because they deal with the bright student who's bored
Right,
by making him an assistant to the teacher.
right.
So you got a couple things going on there. One is that the person who is already bright is becoming even smarter because now they're teaching, right? The student that isn't as fast has a peer and a friend who's helping them along the way. But if you teach something, obviously, if you teach something, you know it, but you can learn faster by explaining it, obviously, over and over again. And I could talk about this all day, but it's Tuesday, and we have not talked about Mickey Rooney's death, and that happened on Sunday, and I want to make sure that
Mickey.
people understand one thing that I know about, 2 things I know about Mickey Rooney. Wonderful actor.
Let's just make it official. It's an official news segment.
Mickey Rooney, dead at 93. Gone too soon. He was a
Gone too
wonderful
soon.
actor, number one, and known as a completeness. Mickey Rooney was an asshole. There
Right.
are
The hell do
many.
you think you are? He said, just because you were Mickey Rooney and this and that, so, when I want a little attention, I want attention. Do you understand that?
Stop for a second.
I'll tell you what I'm...
Stop for a second.
What does he say?
This-
I want what?
This is
I'm not sure.
him sitting down with Robert Osborne on Turner Classic Movies, telling a story about something that probably happened 40 years ago, and he's so angry that Robert Osborne looks like he is pasted to the wall.
Yeah.
He doesn't- you know when somebody tells you a story? I know people like this. When they're angry at somebody else and they're telling you about what happened, in the middle of it, you think I'm that guy. You're as mad at me. And that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
This guy was weird with his anger. And so this is in the context of a Turner Classic Movies. Hey, let's talk to Mickey Rooney about Hollywood.
Right. They
This-
just watched a Mickey Rooney film or something.
And
so-
I told that, but let it go.
Just because you were Mickey Rooney and this and that, so. When I want a little attention, I want attention. Do you understand that? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home. And I grabbed him I'm sorry, you know. And I grabbed him like this. And I said, you're not going home at all. I'm going home.
This guy was an asshole. I think that we met him. I know that we did. We did meet him because he was in a wheelchair. He was when we were still at 96 Rock. There was one Dragon Con where I met the cast of Happy Days. You know, except for Fonzie and Ron Howard, who still have careers. But,
I met the cast of no. I met nobody. Is what you should have said.
I met
I met a
Ralph
couple
Malph.
of assholes in leather jackets.
It was kind of cool to me to meet Ralph Malph and Potsy.
Donnie
and-
Most.
Yeah, Donnie Most and Potsy. But I also met Rip Taylor. They brought in that year,
Oh, fun.
and Mickey Rooney. And Mickey Rooney was in a wheelchair, and he was with, by the way, his 8th wife. His 8th wife. How much of an asshole is this guy that he has an 8th wife? And she broke up with him in 2013, by the way. She didn't make it for the ride to the death. Somewhere in 2013, that marriage fell apart.
Right.
But he came in and he just had this anger. It's that thing. I touched on it about Paul Simon last week. I hate being old. And I'm
Right.
going to take it out on everybody. I was the biggest matinee idol in America for 4 years. Yeah,
Me
that
and
was,
Judy Garland were like this.
yeah, that was 1938 to 1942, and you're right to be proud of it, but the world does move on, and it's okay. But he came in, he was just... So then I saw him, you know, because back then, when the telethon, the Jerry Lewis telethon was the telethon, the two things were happening in the same weekend. Dragon Con was happening Labor Day weekend. I don't know if it usually does, but it was this year. And so the celebrities that were here for Dragon Con were showing up on the local breaks for the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Right.
And so everybody that I'd seen, Rip Taylor, the Happy Days gang, and here comes Mickey Rooney. And that's where the famous regular guys, 852... 8-2. He was so angry. I don't have this audio anymore. It's not my property. But he was so angry that they did one of the things where they go to the local tote board. Hey, let's look at what we got. Da-da-da-da-da-da. This is like the first afternoon in the telethon, right? You haven't. Well, okay, it's like early morning the next day, so things don't really get heated up until late afternoon and the thing ends. So they've got the new total on the tote board locally, and everybody's. Yay! And Mickey Rooney listens. He said, "I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I look at that board and I say that's not enough. What if? Oh, he goes like, what if your son had muscular dystrophy? Huh? How would
gosh.
you feel? So it was the dude had just a boiling cauldron of anger inside of his teeny tiny little belly.
The hell do you think you are?
And actors who dealt with him all have stories about him.
Mickey was Mickey. That's what they might say. You have to repeat their name, and that's how you know that they're assholes.
He was mean to fans in the end. You know, I know people. I'm not going to blow out my friend on a day like this. On a day like this, where Mickey Rooney's going to be all the,
Well, you can still.
It's going to be all this stuff. I'm not going to.
A day like yesterday.
A day like yesterday. But I mean, it's going to go on. Like Turner Classic Movies is going to do a thing and whatever. The dude is the only dude who was in movies for 10 decades.
He adopted the Whitey persona.
Oh, White!
From
This
Boys
is
Town.
this was the first time I think that he could show that he could do serious acting. This is with Spencer Tracy, maybe the greatest actor of all time, in Boys Town.
I'm Father Flanagan. I saw your brother Joe just a little while ago. We had a long talk about you, Whitey. Joe wants you to come to Boys Town with me.
If you think you're gonna make a plow jockey out of me, you got another thing coming.
Now look, Whitey, in a pinch, I can be tougher than you are, and I guess maybe this is the pinch. You're coming with me to Boys Town because that's the way your brother wants it.
Now they're walking to Boys Town.
The thing is, in the wake of all the priest molestation scandals, that movie's kind of difficult to watch. A priest dragging a boy into Boys Town. But at the time, it was a simpler time where we looked the other way when priests molested our children. We didn't talk about it publicly. Now
The good old days.
The good old days where kids knew their place. Hey, the priest is important. You don't take him down. He stands for the church, and the church stands for the Pope, and the Pope stands for God. So shut up and go back to your room. The good old days.
The good old
Look,
days.
he's allowed to be grumpy. Just because he's famous doesn't mean that he's not allowed to be a grumpy man. I mean, what name an old guy that's 93 that wasn't just a grumpy sack of shit?
I can't believe I'm still alive.
Yeah, really. He's just mind boggled that he's awake every morning.
Every day is a nightmare.
So you're saying,
Everything hurts. Nothing
I can't
makes
go to
sense.
the bathroom by myself.
All his friends are dead. Wouldn't you be pissed off too?
that's the worst part about
Everybody dies.
yeah, when you get older.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was protecting myself by befriending you guys when you were 19. But now you're not so far behind me.
Uh-oh. Now we're getting old.
I wanted like when all my friends that I've known for longer than you guys, when they start dying, I wanted to have longtime friends still. You know, Autumn and Greg. I've known them for a long time.
Yep.
Surely I'll die before them, and I don't have to worry about it. But now you guys seem closer to me in age than you
You're
did
still
then.
gonna die first. We'll be in our 60s.
Right.
You'll still be jealous of that too.
You really think I'm gonna make 78 or something like that? You really think that? I'd like to believe that, but I don't know that's gonna happen.
Heart disease run in your family.
Yeah, but here's the thing: no cancer really, which doesn't mean anything. You can still get cancer, but it doesn't run through the family.
Have you eaten a
Yeah,
vegetable
but it's heart.
lately?
It's heart stuff.
No.
No.
It's heart stuff that people died of young that they don't die of young anymore. Like medicine is better now than it was in the 60s and whatever.
Lipitor.
Yeah, I was on Lipitor for a while. It weirded me out.
And he stopped it.
I
Now
got
that
off it.
cholesterol shooting up again. Arteries are clogging.
I just had my heart listened to, and you ever do that? Because I went through that period where I was having what I thought was an erratic heartbeat, and I got it checked out, and you go and they put that thing on you. It's an ultrasound.
EKG?
It's an ultrasound. It's just like another ultrasound, and you can hear your heart. And let me tell you, when your heart sounds, you don't hear your heart, but I have to assume it always sounds like this. If it sounded like this your whole life, if you put a microphone down there, it sounds like when you wring out a mop. You know when you push the mop?
Right.
And she's listening and going, sounds perfectly well to me. I'm listening and going, oh, God, I don't want that going on in my body. It's squishy. Your heart is squishy and disgusting.
Kind of makes sense that it would be squishy.
But it's just
It's a muscle.
You hear those flaps opening and closing. I nearly vomited. It's like, listen to your heart of one of those ultrasounds.
Well, I hear
It's
the baby's
weird.
heart every 2 weeks.
There it is. Is that it? That's
What was it?
exactly what it sounds like. Hit it again. Is that all there is? That's what your heart sounds like all the time.
The baby's heart.
It sounds like there's a tornado outside.
It kind of does.
Just your squishy heart.
Yeah.
But Mickey Rooney was a good actor. He's in a
Was
movie.
he?
If you have not seen the movie Black Stallion,
Yeah.
see the movie Black Stallion, which I think was in the 70s, late 70s. Awesome. He was nominated for
Before
an
my
Oscar.
time. I watched nothing before 1980.
Oh, really?
Nothing.
It might have been 1980 for all I know. It was right there on the edge between the 70s and the 80s. Black Stallion, great movie. I mean, you'll be glad you watched it anyways, 'cause it's a great movie. And he is really awesome in it. He's really, really good in it.
I loved him in Pete's Dragon.
Was he in Pete's Dragon?
Yes, he was.
Was that a cartoon or a half cartoon?
It was the dragon was the cartoon.
Okay. And they talk about Roger Rabbit. Pete's Dragon came out way before Roger
Yeah.
Rabbit, did it not?
He toasted that apple.
I never saw Pete's
Right,
Dragon.
guys? Oh.
Even as a kid, I said, I don't want to see that.
Oh, it was so good.
There was certain kid stories that just had no appeal to me. One was Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, I never cared about that.
I don't even
either.
know what happens in that fucking thing. It's just I looked at it.
Is
I
she
don't want
like-
to see that.
Is she like Annie? It's like a fake.
it?
No, she's independent young girl. Who knows where her parents
Freckled.
are? I think her dad's like a pirate. And he
yeah,
leaves her
somehow
behind.
there's
Oh,
some sort of
she-
naval
oh.
kind of thing
So
to
he's
it.
gone. There's no mom. She just kind of lives on her own and befriends neighborhood kids, and the parents don't like her
Right.
at first. And then, I mean, there's several stories, but this is
Right.
the one story, like the one movie from the 80s. The actress who played Pippi Longstocking in that one became a porn star.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah. Went
What
on.
a surprise! Why is that?
Went
Because
on.
it happened a lot, like the kid who licked the light pole in not
Yeah.
the light and the flagpole
Yeah.
in A Christmas Story. He did porn.
Is that your
Are
only
they
other
all
example?
those kids that's the rumor. I don't know. Is that true?
No,
Is there
he
enough to
did
back
porn.
that up?
Pippi actually did.
Okay, look up the kid who licked the
Snopes.
look up the kid who licked the flagpole. He did porn. His name's like something Schwartz.
Well, that was in the movie, right? It was Schwartz.
Oh, is that was my? I
I think
confused
so.
him. Well, he had some other real Jewish name in real life.
I think so.
Greenbaum.
What was his porn
His
name
friends
then?
call him Greenie. That kid from A Christmas Story. That's how they were selling the porn. It wasn't like he did it as a novelty thing. I'm the kid from A Christmas Story.
After a questionable foray into adult films in the 90s, Schwartz returned to the collectibles business.
He returned to the collectibles.
You were
business.
right about the Schwartz. I was wrong.
He went legit. What were his movies called? Yeah. Are they? Can we find them on?
How's
I wanna
Stella
know-
got her tubes packed?
Greg, we could tie
Ugh.
this thing up with a bow if we end it with his male orgasm sound from his porno movies.
Oh.
Well, no. He makes a noise when he's like,
yeah.
ah! When all the kids are going back into the school. This he makes
Stuck. No, but he's like screaming. He's like, ah! They all had that squeaky little scream in that whole. All
one
of
of
the
the
kids
greatest
did.
movies ever made. And then he has to go and bring shame. Bring shame to that film. I mean, what if one of the guys from It's a Wonderful Life had done porn? Would have ruined the whole thing.
We don't know what Zuzu was doing.
Yeah. Well, what happened to Zuzu?
Yeah.
And her pedals. Ooh, I'm going to call it Zuzu's pedals. Her labia pedals.
I would give my flower a drink.
I give my flower a drink. Oh, you stupid kid.
I can't find his porn anywhere.
Oh, he wiped it. He successfully wiped it from the internet.
Sweatpantserection.com gives you the background.
Sweatpants erection.
Is it on IMDb where we can at least get a good sort of like what the porn movie was called or something?
I'll continue to look.
This is the podcast where we search for things on the
It
internet,
really
and then
is.
we bring you. But we've learned a lot about the Charge of the Light Brigade. You
true.
know about something. It was a very
Yep.
monumental event in world history that you didn't know about.
I didn't know about that.
Changed warfare as we know it, I believe. Soldiers
didn't-
suddenly mattered. Their lives mattered, and you couldn't kill them on willy-nilly. You had to have a good reason. You
Nilly.
had to have a good reason to march them in there.
I didn't know that Mickey Rooney was actually a good actor. I just thought he was like some kid actor that was in a billion movies and just kept being like
he
an
was
MGM
good. No, he was
brand.
talented. He was song and dance. I mean,
They
he
all
kept
were
up with
back
Judy
then.
Garland and all that.
Yeah.
He was on stage for the first time when he was like seven months old or something. He was born to vaudeville parents.
Oh, sure.
And so he started doing all that shit. He was in something like 20 silent. He was in a whole series of movies from
Really?
1925 to 1928 or something.
Wow.
I can't remember what they were called. So he was like a little baby in those things.
My Folly Baby or something.
Okay, here are some of his.
Schwartz?
Yeah, this is some of his work.
Schwanz.
Stuck.
Fuck. Fuck.
Scotty's X-rated adventure.
There you go.
The Wrong Snatch. New Wave Hookers 5. Dirty Bob's Excellent Adventure 36.
Wait, I wanna talk
Dirty
about-
Bob's Excellent Adventure 35. Cafe Flesh 2. Flashpoint X. Silver Screen Confidential.
Wow.
The Devil and Miss Jones 6. Booby Trap. Skinwalker.
New Wave Hooker?
New Wave Hooker.
That means
New
like
Wave
they're,
Hookers 5. That was a 1997
they're like
release.
dressed in some like triangle shaped clothes or something
Yes.
like
Yeah,
that.
what
is
year
a
was
New
that?
Wave Hooker?
97.
97, but New Wave
Weird.
was like 1978,
Yeah.
79. That's weird.
All right, let's see if I
It
can
was a
find
throwback.
I like the fact that he shows up in one series at 35. Like the series been going all along, and then they suddenly bump into the kid who got his tongue stuck on the flagpole in number 35. Are there people who like a series of pornography like it matters
They're
to
like,
them?
ooh, 37's coming
like,
out.
Like the way I'm like really excited that Bob Dylan put out a new album. Like, ooh, 37.
Assmaster 47's
I've
out.
seen them all.
Yeah. I don't.
I know
Who is watching a movie? You know what I mean? Like a whole.
Yeah, I know what
Yeah, from
like
the
from
beginning
beginning to end?
Yeah, no one is doing that.
people who are edging. You know that term?
edging?
You know that term, Michael?
I sure do.
Why don't you explain to Autumn what edging is?
Edging, sex is a thing between a man and a woman,
Okay.
and sometimes
When
it's
mommy and
not.
daddy wrestle?
Edging is when a guy, and I imagine a girl can do it too. I don't know how much control a girl has over her orgasm, but an edging, as far as I know,
Oh.
is when a guy is just about to climax, and then he holds it back and continues to have sex.
I thought
So
that
you
was
can
a tantra thing.
It's almost like that.
Nope, just kidding.
It's Tantra though has a whole thing that comes with it, and then you get into a place in the space of mind, and it's
Okay.
sort of spiritual.
It's like a sexual meditation or
Right.
something.
This is just as a man, you keep walking up to the edge, and then you like pull back for a minute or two.
Edging.
You're edging. You're edging, and some guys get into it and they do it for hours.
Wow.
Hours.
Hours?
Hours.
Hours,
And
you say.
Not with a
here's
woman
thing.
there, usually through masturbation.
Oh.
An edge, and their partner cannot even realize that they're doing it, and it goes on and on and on and on.
Oh, well, that makes sense. Like
Until
in
finally, you just punch the guy in the face and say, "Leave me alone."
get it over with.
Well, here's the other part. Guys might also the edge and not realize it when they stop and go, wait. Okay, we're good. That's
Yeah.
basically the same
Well,
thing.
yeah, if you want to keep going, right? And then you start
I think-
thinking about like
yeah,
baseball stats and all of that stuff.
You just
'cause-
back out for a second, then you get back in there and do the Lord's work.
The worst thing, and since we're talking about edging in that moment, is maybe like 6 times in my life I've been surprised by the moment, and then I couldn't enjoy it because I wasn't.
Oh,
like,
you
I
weren't
didn't
ready.
I didn't build up to it. You know, the whole
Yeah.
build up of here we go.
What is that, Greg? How does that go? I'm gonna come.
Now in my mind, that's just I'm not saying that, but it's in my mind.
Right,
Like, and all of a sudden you just it's like all of a sudden
Oops.
you,
That's
oh,
the
oh no.
fifth worst. Oh, oops.
Oops.
I also want to mention, so Mickey Rooney, yeah, check out Black Stallion. It was actually very good. Also want to mention, over the weekend, even though this is Tuesday, that this guy's famous. Now, Michael, was he a real famous comedian as far as, like, if he
John
came...
Panette?
Yeah. If he,
Absolutely.
He had a fan base, and if he came to town, it was a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, he would sell out. He was doing theaters. He was on Broadway for years. He played, he was in Hairspray. He played... The Mama, I guess, is I can't remember the character's name because I'm not, like,
It's sort of
obsessed with it.
off the air. You said he plays the Travolta character, which sort of annoyed,
From the movie, yeah.
I know, annoyed me a little bit because that's really the Divine character, and should
Yeah.
be known that Divine is the one who
Hell yes.
made that thing happen in the first movie, Hairspray, which is unbelievably great.
Yes.
Sonny Bono's in it, for Christ's sakes.
And Blondie.
Well, John Panette killed it on. I mean, he's amazing.
I'm trying to find my story on John Panette, and of course I can't because
I've got it right here,
can't
Eric.
find it. But he was also known very famously. He was the catalyst for the court case in the finale of Seinfeld. Right? They were
I mean, that's so not what he should
no.
be
But
remembered as.
But you have to understand, Michael. Everybody doesn't follow stand-up comedy the way you do. Most people, if you go to people in Missouri and Idaho, they will remember him from the finale, and there's nothing wrong with that. He did a lot more than that.
Yeah,
but
so at the end of Seinfeld, when they were videotaping a guy getting carjacked or getting mugged,
Right.
and they didn't do anything about it, he was the guy that was getting mugged.
right. And then he
played that
comes,
character.
and that was like an episode. But then in the end, he ends up being one of the witnesses that come
Right.
when they bring in the string of different
character.
characters that they've screwed over the years.
Well, he's the one that they get sued. They get to go to jail for the Good Samaritan law.
right.
And so it was his case, I guess. So.
And he was a very, very large man. What would you say that he weighed?
Oh man, he probably 400 or 500 pounds.
Yeah, he was a big, big guy. These
It says that his personal physician, they're not doing an autopsy because he's signed off on the cause of death, which was heart disease and liver disease.
I think he had admitted to. He was 50, by the way, so very young. He admitted to. Not admitted, but it was a known thing, and he was open about his battle with, I think, pain pills. Right, Mike?
Yeah, well, pain pills, drinking,
Right.
and obviously weight was an issue. He had heart and liver problems. You weigh 400 or 500 pounds, you're gonna have issues
Sure.
with everything.
Are you going to tell that story that you told off air about him coming to? Somebody had to help him with his act, or
Yeah, that's the I guess he was pretty messed up, and he was forgetting his act, and somebody had to go help him, like remind and like play with him to try him to do his act. And I guess he came back. That was the first show, and he came back the rest of the weekend, and he was fine,
Right.
and no problems. But I guess he was pretty messed up.
That's
night.
when somebody who's performed that long, and understands being ready for performance, when it starts to bleed over and they're not ready to perform at 8 o'clock when they know a show's coming, that kind of tips you off that they are in fact out of control. Because usually, you know, like Keith Richards could always take the stage. You know, I mean, you usually
He's a Viking,
with
though.
performers.
You know?
You're right about that.
Yeah.
But this guy was probably able to pull it off for a number of years, and then suddenly got to a point where it became overwhelming.
As far as what I know about this kind of thing is that they will take this pain medication because they really do need it, right? Maybe he really did have some sort of back issue.
Well, if you got
or
that much
some
weight,
pain.
you're going to have back issues.
Sure.
It's still a normal sized skeleton in there.
That's
you always
true.
have to remember that. It's
I
just
love-
a
I-
regular skeleton bearing all that weight.
That's right.
Yeah, but also, and then over time, if you're on pain medication for long enough, your perception of pain is changed.
Well.
So people have like when they try and back off of the pain medication, their pain is all of a sudden a 12 out of like the 1
well,
to
it's like
10 scale.
in a smaller sense, I deal with rebound headaches. They're not real.
They're not real.
I'm addicted to
You're
Excedrin
addicted-
or
I
whatever,
know.
and so
Makes me sad.
so my brain creates a headache, or I know it's coming and I stop it before whatever,
Right.
and that's all the way because my body wants more Excedrin.
Right.
And that works once you get into more difficult pain relievers. This is all a cautionary tale for our friend Greg Russ.
Oh, my ankle's hurting. Oh, the ankle I sprained in December.
In
It's
December.
Now it's hurting. But do you understand this, Greg? You're a funny man.
I understand
you're not
all of
overweight.
it.
You're not overweight.
He
I
respects
understand all of
so
it.
that it's just like with me and alcohol. I'm not going to get addicted because I don't want to quit.
That's my favorite.
That's
My
the
favorite is
rule.
the alcoholic who just stops trying and goes, and owns it.
Yeah.
Like it's rationale, and it means that the person is just completely.
I've admitted it. I'm
Hey,
an alcoholic.
yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll have
When I
fun
get drunk,
with you
I
till
beat
you die.
up strangers in bars. I own it.
That's right. That's when they've just totally thrown the towel, and you're not going to know them much longer. Either they're just going to be lost, or they'll be dead.
However, owning it does sometimes help, because I was out on a vacation once with a friend, and she was like, we were super drunk, and she was making out with this stranger guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day she was like, yeah, I get pretty slutty when I'm drunk. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because before that it was like, oh my gosh, she really was out of control.
As long as you know.
But then it was like, yep, okay, you know it, I know it. Yay, what a fun time that was.
As long as you know why and where those STDs came from, it's not really a problem.
That's right.
Own those STDs.
Own it.
Another thing, and I'm sure, Michael, you're a big guy, but you're a tall guy.
Sure.
So when you walk into a room, people don't go, look at that fat ass. You're lucky a little bit like me because we're tall. We just seem stocky to people. We
Yeah,
don't.
It is nice being tall.
Yeah, we can pull it out. But and you see this a lot. And this guy, I think he was known for his self-deprecating humor. So obviously he made jokes about his weight. When I used to do comedy, there was a few people that I toured around with that were really huge, and they got really, really big laughs, bigger laughs than I did. But they're all dead now. They got laughs off of their lifestyle and their weight. And man, performance is a drug in and of itself. And getting laughs when you're a comedian is a drug. I mean, you need it, and you need it again. And so it's really kind of strangely dangerous to be very successful because you're fat with really great fat jokes. Because it's a weird thing in performance. When you do well, you feel invincible.
Absolutely.
You really, really do. So, you're agreeing with me, right, Michael? Pick up
for
on
sure,
that.
100%.
It does kill people. So when you're in a club and you're laughing at a guy's jokes about being 500
You're
pounds,
killing
you are accessory to murder, or at least you're at least an accessory to suicide. You're not helping.
I don't know. I couldn't agree with you more.
Have you? You know people like this, right? I'm sure you've lost people. I don't know if you've been in comedy long enough that someone's died on you like this. But I used to work with a guy from time to time. I run into him. His name was like Big Something. When you meet them, their names either be Big Something or Tiny Something.
Right.
And this guy would just kill, and like half of his act was about being fat. And it didn't. I guess it shouldn't have surprised me. It did. But like 3 years later, hey, Big Willie's dead. What did he die of? Heart attack.
Right. Being overweight.
This guy, there were times these comics, twice this happened to me. And I am not lying about this. Sometimes when you're touring comedian, a lot of times you end up in like cheap motels, but sometimes it's cheaper for a comedy club just to rent a townhouse somewhere. And because they're gonna
comedy condos.
Comedy condo. They're going to have somebody in there. They're going to have 3 people in there so you have these new roommates. Twice I walked into a comedy condo after one of these big fat guys, and there were grease stains left on the like you get there before the maid did or something, and there's grease stains on the sheets, not from his skin,
Right.
because the pizza box on the floor tells me that's grease from a pizza that he's eating in bed after the crowd just validated his weight.
Sure. Well, I mean, if your whole act is about your weight, then you can't lose weight. Or else you have to have a whole new act.
But it's not even that, because the Big Willie or whatever his name was probably could have lost 100 pounds and kept all the jokes. It's more about that invincibility that you feel when a crowd loves you.
I think I've lost a bunch of weight in my life, and I still need to lose more. But I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of not big but fat comedians and fat people in general. Is that you'll give up the jokes and you'll write new ones and you'll get a new act to not be fat.
Right.
It's not a fun place.
It's not a fun place, but there is something about that night after night. Back when I was doing comedy, there was an explosion going on. We were doing shows from Tuesday through Sunday, and to have people validating you like that all the time, it doesn't help. I'm not blaming it, but it doesn't help, because you really, really do feel invincible after you do any kind of performance that is well received. It's if you haven't had that feeling, it's maybe in any kind of walk of life. If you land that big client, that feeling you have for that lunch, and you go out and you celebrate and whatever. Okay, well, imagine doing that 6 nights a week.
Right.
Landing that big client 6 nights a week, killing in front of a crowd. It validates everything about you, and you don't feel as if. The only word for it is you feel invincible. You really do.
And when you bomb, you still get to eat your pizza.
I was going to say that too.
Well, then you're just depressed.
Yeah, you still get to eat the pizza, the whole pizza, and everything's good.
Exactly.
Mike, I know you always say that you think you're so big. I would never look across a room and say, yeah, that big fat guy over there.
Right.
I would never ever say
because
that.
he's tall.
I weigh 300 pounds.
Yeah, but I don't know what
which
you
is
weigh.
a lot of,
You're
no matter
tall.
how tall you are, unless you're 9 feet tall, that's a lot of weight to be carrying around.
But you do carry it well.
You do.
You don't walk around tucking your shirt in like these idiots, for some reason in the South, fat people tuck their shirts in. I have no idea where
gentlemen.
It's just absurd. But I mean, they're not even shirts like what I'm wearing, like
Dress
button-ups.
shirts.
They're like they tuck in golf shirts. They tuck
polos,
those, and they're like orange.
There was a guy we used to work with, though.
Gut hanging out. What the hell is that?
There was a guy we used to work with, and he was very, very nice. I'm assuming he's still alive. I hope he's still alive. But he would it was work at the radio station, and he would wear dress shirts. But the gut would hang over the belt, so you're just showing.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you have a gut and it's sticking out, but the fact that this thing actually hung over, so the shirt then was tucked up under the gut in the fold of skin between the gut.
You're laying it out there. And then there's something weird going on.
Gotta look professional.
I noticed this when we were at South by Southwest. We were commenting on this as we were driving through the streets with our windows up. Speaking of windows,
we're gonna have a lot of notices.
I would look at just looking around at women. There were a lot of beautiful women, obviously, but there's a thing that started. I noticed this with interns in the mid 2000s. That's how my connection with young people in this world.
I was early 2000s. I don't know.
There was a thing all of a sudden where fat girls, it was okay to tuck in and just let those rolls show. Is that the self-esteem movement? They're obviously getting laid. I mean, that's what would be the right.
Yeah,
so
I don't know.
It's the movement. It's like we're not going to be.
Girls are walking around with their midriff showing.
They're not going to be
Texas.
ashamed. The thing is, it's the reaction to we're not going to be ashamed because culture and society and media says we should look this way. So let's
okay.
Let's
you don't
kind
have
of
to be,
no, but
you don't have to
it's
be
dangerous.
ashamed.
No, it's dangerous because then you don't get in shape and you're going to be unhealthy and you're going to die at some point.
But my point is, look, you don't. There's somewhere in the middle between being ashamed of having a gut if you're a 21-year-old girl. You don't have to be ashamed of it, but anybody who dresses to go out kind of tries to dress in a fashion that makes them look a little bit better. You can not be ashamed of it, but walking around with your midriff out and you've got a belly gut hanging over.
Maybe some people think it's cute.
It's not.
Do you?
It's not.
To each his own, Eric.
That's right.
It's not to most men.
I like a thicker milkshake.
It's like
I want to see the bezzy.
let's listen. Like, if you've got a fat face, you grow facial hair in a way that thins it. It doesn't mean that you're ashamed to have a fat face. You're just sort of,
just trying to make aesthetically
look good.
Yeah.
That's a good point right there. Aesthetically, if you're 22 years old and you've got a huge belly and you walk around with that midriff hanging out because, hey, if my girlfriend who's skinny can do it, I can do it. Okay, well, it's aesthetically pleasing on her. It's not aesthetically pleasing on you.
I can't speak to it because I would not. I doubt it that someone is looking at their girlfriend who's skinny and saying, "Well, if they can do it, I can do it." I think
what are
maybe
they doing?
I don't know because I would not let my belly hang out like that. Because like I feel like a lot of Mexican girls have like really tight shirts on
with the big bellies.
Well, the rolly bellies.
And you could say that's why
Lumpy.
being ashamed doesn't really play into it.
Yeah,
because
they're not ashamed.
It's not really that because they're presenting themselves as sexy. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're presenting themselves
And
as
it's confusing
sexy.
because it's not sexy.
It's
looking.
not sexy.
Yeah.
And I think
To us,
it's
I
got to
guess
be
some
something to
people-
do.
I was gonna say
some people put up with it.
No, some people
No,
like
some
it.
people are into it.
No,
Yeah.
there are people who are into that. But I mean, overall, if you're at South by Southwest and you're walking the streets and all these hot girls are walking around and you're just doing it too, I say that's about empowerment or something like that. There's no reason that you can't do it. Well, when it comes to fashion, all right, there are things that I can't pull off that Mick Jagger can because
However,
he's skin and bones.
The confidence can be attractive, right?
Huh?
You know what I mean? Like,
Those rolls still smell.
They don't smell.
I don't care how confident
What
you
are
are.
you talking?
Can
Hold on, we're
wash
not
them.
talking
Stuff
about
gets hard to
obese.
wash.
We're not talking about
I'm
obese
talking
people.
about a belly that hangs over.
No one is smelling because of that.
What?
Okay, maybe I feel like
Food
maybe
crumbs get
He's
caught
so
up.
shocked. What?
a super obese.
By the way, which is my orgasm sound?
What? That's when you're surprised.
Ah!
It came out of nowhere.
By the way, it's almost time to wrap this up. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, get out
So
your thought.
wrap
Autumn.
it up. Wrap
I was
up
saying
your combo.
let Autumn finish her thought.
Say, I understand that maybe a super uber obese person
And I've
might
seen-
have a cleanliness issue, right? Because they
There's
whatever.
breadcrumbs caught between the rolls.
I'm sure, and it's
Yes.
difficult and to find all the folds, even
Yeah.
But someone who is just like 30 pounds overweight is not going to smell. Her rolls are not going to smell bad.
I'll never know because I'm never gonna get my nose close enough to that to know.
And I feel like, so I was going to say too, like, you know how sometimes you see like a black lady who's dressed, she is like dressed,
Yeah.
and she's like
Like at a Hawks
big,
game.
big girl.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, but more often than not, because I think of this as a
Where does
What
that
is
come
this?
from?
I think it's
Train?
your phone.
not my phone.
I don't have, no, mine's on silent. Is it through Skype?
It was me. Sorry.
All right.
It's like ding ding. You
Turn
guys
off
stop
your
talking.
phones. when black women dress up for a Hawks game or something like that,
Yeah.
it seems to me that they dress they're being flamboyant.
Yeah.
But they're dressing appropriate to their bodies, and they got the big asses and they're showing those, and that's fine.
But their legs
because
might
that
not,
is
like it might
sexual.
not look that great.
Yeah, okay, that's that.
But I'm into it because it's confident. You're like,
Right.
get
Well,
it, girl.
But it's not. It's not that, because the phenomenon that I'm talking about seems to be more about white girls and Puerto Rican
I'm
girls.
picturing like hippie, chubby
not,
girl.
Not really. That's
No?
not the type I saw, because hippie chubby girl isn't presenting so much. Like Deadhead Girl is just doing what she does.
Right.
I'm talking about South by Southwest. You're walking down the street
We
saying,
didn't have this experience
Look at
with
well,
you."
anyway, any kind of festival now.
Right.
You're saying, look at me, I'm a hot chick.
And you'll find someone. They'll have sex with you. Speaking of
Yeah.
sex,
Huh?
I said speaking of sex. There's no noise. These guys are orgasming quietly. This was
Schwartz?
Oh, it's showing them. They've just put music in and cut out the noise. That's what happens when I can't preview things. That's Schwartz.
Oh.
That's Schwartz from
like that
New Wave
music.
Hookers 5. I was hoping that.
How does it look? What's his? I gotta know. Is he well endowed? Is he?
Yeah, it's fine. But this is a group scene. There's like 4 guys. They showed it. There was a cutaway of his face.
They
You
got a
could tell
couple
that-
actors from Goonies
You
in there
can
with
tell
him as
the
well.
guy was yelling, but they've just completely cut out
Could
the
that
audio.
be our outro music? Is this porn music?
That is so strange. They're showing his face, and you can tell he's just screaming.
Why don't you do what you think it sounds like? Here, play it at the same time.
No, I'm gonna look for another one. You keep talking.
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
try to find Schwartz. I want to hear him.
Schwartz.
Well, Autumn, what
With
if
his
people
schwanz.
in the meantime want to communicate with you outside of this show on the interwebs?
This is weird to say this without anything underneath us.
Oh, we usually
feel
have.
uncomfortable. Here, you do it.
Well,
Well, you can find me everywhere on all the social medias at Autoprints. PRITTS. I'll keep going now, and you talk to Michael.
Michael, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can see me searching the rumors for the Goonies Part 2 that they recently somewhat announced.
yes.
And then you can check me out at Big Man Mike on all the stuff.
I'm changing it to something else now. I want to change it to owner of Lonely Hearts. Greg Russ, you have no web presence. I like to pretend to be Eric.
This reminded me that Kevin and Driving Crime did the One I Love, REM, with Mike Mills on stage over the weekend at the Buren Fowler Memorial 40-watt club
Awesome.
thing. That
Yes.
was awesome.
Yes.
Greg and I made a movie for it that went over quite well. A little 2.5-minute film that played in the middle of Fly Me Courageous for Buren Fowler, who was the member of Driving and Crime when they had Fly Me Courageous. I did want to mention that because it was a great evening. And I spent a lot of time talking to Buren's wife, and she's a wonderful person. It really was, she met him when she was 13. They've loved each other that long.
Was he 13?
And yeah, he was. Yeah, it was not one of these things like
Yeah.
this. They met in school.
Wow.
They'd known each other that long. They went off and married other people, and they got back together like 12, 13 years ago, got married, rediscovered each other, classmates.com, and rediscovered each other, fell back in love.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was only 54, 55, 6, maybe something like that. And it was really sudden. And she was just shocked. I mean, how do you feel in that kind of situation? And I talked to her a long time, and she was very gracious. And it was a great, great evening at 40 Watt. Place was packed. It was just a great vibe because Kevin decided that he wanted to celebrate. He wanted it to be a rock and roll celebration because Buren liked to rock, and it really came off that way. I did want to mention that. I don't know why I'm doing all the weekend stuff on Tuesday's show, but
I know, we forgot.
I did want to make sure that I mentioned that, and it was the mayor was there. She was presented with a flag, a fallen soldier flag from the Wounded Warriors, who he did a lot of support for, and sometimes you don't know how much somebody's loved, until it's too bad. It's too bad. And to see, I saw a lot of the people that were around Driving and Crying for all those years, and a lot of people who I know because I made the movie, and only wouldn't if I didn't, managers from the 80s and things like that. And it's one of those milestones where you could see those people really being affected. I wasn't there. I knew Buren for the last 3 or 4 years, and it was generational. It was more like in Athens.
Right.
It really was about, an era that is now leaving us, like parts of that are, and so it was very poignant. The whole evening was very poignant, and the rock and roll was absolutely amazing. And that's all that you can do, really.
We can't end on orgasm noises now, so
I know, because I did
Made it
this.
serial.
Well, you can end with our regular music because that's
We could
by
also say
Driving
thank
and
you
Crying.
to the guy who posted all those videos.
Oh, Steven, who I can't pronounce his last name.
I'm looking for him right now.
Wisner Wazoo.
Yeah, Wazoo.
I didn't even know he was there, and I talked to a few people. Do I know Steven personally? Have I talked to him a bunch of
Winnie
times?
Yarzik.
Yeah. So he was there, and he posted stuff, and I talked to people there, and now I feel like a fool because do I know him, and I don't know I know him?
I know
and
you guys need to have this like a special wink and a nod next time you
yeah,
see
like,
each
well,
other.
just like go, hey, Steve, how you doing?
Yeah.
I did talk to a few people.
Winnie Yarzik.
I had one guy. The only problem with when they were doing the One I Love, in the middle of it, and this is like REM doesn't exist anymore. This song's not done live anymore. Mike Mills from REM is up there. Kevin's singing. Driving Klein's playing. It's the One I Love.
Mm-hmm.
Huge, great song from REM. And even though I don't really mind, and I don't mind at all, a fan came up to get a picture with me right in the middle of that.
Oh.
I mean, come on. Couldn't you, I love Honeysuckle Blue, but I've seen it 900 times.
Right.
Can't you bother me doing
Yeah, but they haven't seen that one.
this-
They're like,
this-
who's this song?
yeah,
I don't care.
The One I Love is never going to happen again with Mike Mills and
Right.
Kevin Kitty and anyway. So we've already asked where we can see you people. We know where we can see you
Yep.
people. Greg Russ, what if somebody wants to communicate
you didn't ask
with
Michael.
I did ask Michael. You were searching for
Oh,
porn.
I was too engrossed in looking for Flick's dick.
Oh, is that Flick?
Oh,
Flick.
Flick.
It wasn't Schwartz.
That's
It's his real
Schwartz
name.
is his real name,
Right.
but I think there was someone in the
I think so too. His
movie
name's Schwartz.
Was how is for some reason I just have to know if he was Average? Less than average?
No, it's a nice size.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, Flick's dick.
Flick Stick, is that a website?
I just wish we could hear him.
If only.
Maybe in the next show. We will
We
will go to the boiler room with the prep, and we will come back with Flick's orgasm. That is a show business guarantee from me to you. All right. What is today? Today's the 8th? The 9th?
Today's the 9th. 8th.
Today's the 8th?
I don't know what date it is.
Yes, it's the 8th.
Or
I'm
the
doing
9th.
something at a theater very soon. I don't have the information in front of me. So
Good plug.
make sure I feel bad. I believe it's on the 10th. So coming up on it, which will be what, Thursday of this week?
Who knows?
Anyway.
Yes, Thursday.
I'm such a good pitch man, am I not? You will have the ability to see me live somewhere soon. I promise to tell you on the next show.
Where can we find you, Eric? Where can we find this information?
Well, it will be I'll post it.
There you go.
Autumn will post the information as to, because I want to make sure people are there, and it's already coming up on me. It sneaked up on me on the 10th of April. I never thought we'd get here. That, everything that just worked up to this moment, that was the morning show with Eric Von Hessler. We'll chat with you tomorrow morning. But for now, get off my lawn. Leave. You can go slowly, you can go quickly, but you got to go.